Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Cloaks and Capes podcast. Whether you're a level 9 spell slot fan or a newly scribed cantrip, I'm Robbie Misty Steplandis because everyone loves me, and as always, my co-host Kali Vortex Warp Scales because she has to take all the spells that make her DM's job a nightmare. And we are joined by our first returning guest on the podcast. Diana Druid crafts her own The Roses. Welcome back, Diana.
Hello. Am I really your first returning guest?
You are.
Oh,
I
did not know that. That's wonderful. Oh, my goodness.
Now, before we get into our topic for today, I do want to thank everyone who has so far left us reviews or ratings on whatever your podcast app of choice is. It helps new listeners find us, and I encourage those who haven't yet to go and do so. So go on, do it. Unless you're driving, then obviously don't do it just yet. I'll roll a persuasion check if I need to. Oh, I don't have a dice. No, not Kelly. Diana, you have a dice.
You don't want me to roll a d20.
Roll a d20.
Oh, man. It's a Pixels die. Not sponsored. They're just cool.
Love it.
It's a 3.
Okay.
Callie,
crash.
roll a dice.
Oh, you're not going to like where this goes.
It can barely be any worse.
7.
Okay, well, I probably have a +5. I think I expertise
It's 12.
in it, so
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
think it's pretty decently high. Go leave.
Yeah,
a
no,
rating.
you have
super
to
easy.
do it. I mean, listen, just feel bad for us. We're low level. Come on.
So something new that we're doing, and I don't know if this fits better at the beginning, if it fits better at the end, but something that we did, that we kind of started off the podcast, but we decided, or at least I decided, I want to start doing it on the podcast. When we had Eldritch Pod Blast on, I had made magic items for them. And so we decided going forward, that's something that we were going to do whenever we have a guest on. So Diana, I made you, if you look in the Discord here,
this
the
is
Rose of
amazing.
Diana. Its magical rose has 20 petals on it, which can be plucked off to release the magic inside. It regrows 1d4 expended petals daily at dawn, and if all the petals are plucked from the rose, it wilts away and is destroyed. The rose petals can be used in 2 ways. You can take a magic action to pluck up to 6 petals and gain an equal bonus on your next d20 test in the next 10 minutes. And for those who think, well, I'm just going to pluck off all 19, d20 tests cannot benefit from more than 6 petals.
No.
And when a creature you can see within 30 feet of you fails a d20 test, you can use your reaction to quickly pluck 1d6 petals and add that number rolled to the failed d20 test, potentially turning the failure into a success.
Wild. It feels like a spoons metaphor. Or maybe a...
I literally was thinking,
kinda.
like, don't,
Yeah, I can see
don't
that.
burn out. Like,
I can see that, yeah.
If you take
Yep.
all 20, that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
You got to have at least one left.
That's so cute. And it's rare, too. Oh, it feels so special.
We'll get an illustration on it one of these days.
Oh.
So, as for today's podcast, something that I've been seeing a lot around the TikToks, the YouTube Shorts, the social medias, as you kids call it nowadays, and it's been going for a minute now since the PHB first came out, is a tremendous amount of hate for D&D 2024, which isn't unusual, right? Whenever like a new edition, which I don't think it is, or rules updates come out, there's always people who are upset about it, right?
3.0, 3.5.
But there was a
4.0.
particular turning point for me. There's a creator that I follow. I'm not going to say any names. That I was really disappointed with because he has really like nuanced takes. He really takes time to like kind of break things down from both a design perspective and like answers a bunch of questions. It was always really fun to watch. And then someone asked him about the 2024 rules, and his take was it's all shit. Like just cut and clean. Just none of it's good. It's all a waste. And it seemed like a complete divergence from what I normally know of his content. And it's like, if you even use the homebrew rule that everybody uses for potions, right? That they made a rule now. If you use that rule, then at least, and I may be being a little nitpicky here, by that definition, it can't all be bad.
Well, and that's just not a real... That's not a good faith argument. You can't say it's not all. It can't be. First of all, like, first of all, there's so much in 2024 that I absolutely love. My biggest frustration with 2024 is they won't just say like they really clung to this idea of like, no, it's backwards compatible with 2014. I'm like,
It's clunky.
kinda. It's real clunky if you do.
I think that balance-wise, it's not great with 2014, but unless some people like want to use the legacy version and some people want to use the non-legacy version, like then it's not really compatible. But we're still running games with both 2014 and 2024 classes, pretty fine. But what I wanted to do is I thought that instead of putting out what we hate about it, and there is definitely stuff that I dislike about it as well.
Yep.
I want to take time to talk about some of the great things that are in the 2024 D&D that we do love, that it seems like people are overlooking or ignoring. And I'm going to go first. Rogues cutting action is the coolest thing that they could have done to rogues. Allowing you to sacrifice like, a set number of D6s and then have like a whole new toolbox of cool things to use makes it feel like as a rogue, you have so much more you can bring to the table. And honestly, some of it's kind of like a little bit OP, like being able to basically just be like, hey, I'm going to get rid of a D6 and now maybe you fall prone. That's pretty crazy. Obviously, giving rogues more ways to get advantage is always great. But I always feel like as a rogue, and especially depending on what your subclass is, if you can't find a way to get advantage, sometimes you're like, oh, okay, so I guess my turn is just doing a D4 plus 5 damage. All right, I contributed. Next.
Yeah. Well, and thank goodness, so them making heroic inspiration more of like a standardized thing. Like I really like that there are some subclasses that are just like, no, you can get heroic inspiration with this. Here's a way to do it. Whereas in prior, in 2014, I guess we're not calling it 5.0 or whatever. It was just like, you get inspiration when your DM gives it to you. And you're like, okay, well, that makes it really hard to play around if my DM's not feeling so generous on the inspiration today.
Yeah. I, as a DM, forget that inspiration exists.
Constantly. Constantly.
I always
There's
have
like
to
a great
outsource
moment.
it to the players and be like, hey, whenever you guys feel like someone did something cool, you can grant them inspiration.
Constantly, I'm like, oh my God, that was such a great moment. And I just completely forget to tell them they can have an inspiration for it. All the time I do that.
Diana, what about you? What is one of your favorite standout things from the 2020? I mean, we can call it 5.5, 5.2. I don't know. What do we?
There's like 5E24, 5.24, the 2024 edition. I don't know. I've made like 17 videos in this system so far, and I still don't know what we're homogenizingly calling it. But there's a bunch of stuff in here. A lot of the things that I got into when I was first exploring it had to do with kind of like the meta level, just really cool, makes the game more fun type stuff. I'm not a big rules, like mechanics type girly, but when I saw that they made session zeros and safety tools canonically a thing and recommended that you do that, oh my gosh, my heart was so happy. For those who don't know, in the new 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook, and I think the DMG as well, they kind of talked about the fact that you should sit down with your party at the beginning of a session or at the beginning of a campaign and talk about, the potential themes that might come up. Make sure that you're catering to the party's needs and wants and what they want to get out of the adventure, because otherwise, what's the point? And I just thought that was amazing. They didn't name safety tools specifically, which, a lot of other TTRPGs, I will say, have named specifically lines and veils or X cards and said how to use them, which this system doesn't do, unfortunately. But also, there's a lot of safety tools to choose from. They recommend that you look into them and pick one that suits you. And I just think that little push is fantastic and normalizes it.
I think it's also great for that crowd out there that's like, oh, we don't need session zeros. I don't need safety tools. Me and my table know each other, and giving it legitimacy in this way, I think, like you said, normalize it, helps kind of push back against that. One of my favorite things that is mentioned in the 2014 DMG. I guess I don't know if it's in the new one or not, but it specifically says like somewhere in there about, if you as the DM are, hiding your dice rolls, you're not making them public, and you decide that a monster misses, even though maybe it didn't, or vice versa, you can just do that. And there's people who are like, oh, that's a lie, and that takes away my agency, Quantum Ogre. And it's like,
play a video
did you
game.
have fun?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're right, play a video game. If you want the rules to be hard and fast, that's what a video game is for. We're telling a story. So...
I had someone on our Instagram, I think, leave the weirdest comment today that made me think of just telling them to go and play a video game. It was on one of our reels with Mr. Sheikah Dance talking about backstories. And, he's so great. He's amazing.
so funny.
Yeah.
And their comment was like, backstories are for people who like to hear themselves talk. Do you just Does nobody talk in your games then? Like, do you, you guys like to sit in silence and roll dice?
What do you like? Yeah, to that point, like, yeah, if you really just want to do, like, if you don't want backstories or anything, play Warhammer. Like, play, like, they have, like, actual tabletop games where you just do combat roll dice. Play Star Wars X-Wing.
I'm going to have you know, you invite me to any tabletop, I'm coming with a backstory, all right? When we played the World of Warcraft card game in college, there's a Penny Arcade comic about this, I think, where like Tycho like narrates everything that's happening, and one of the other characters is like, no, we're not doing your Dungeons and Dragons bullshit. We're playing card games. He's like, you asked me to be you asked me to be the like raid leader of this deck, so I'm doing it. So buckle up. And that was me. So if you bring me to your Warhammer game, you better be ready for a backstory, and you better be ready for me to narrate every single move that I make.
I love it.
Oh yeah, it's a backwards compatible, to make a joke there, sort of thing, where I will play sorry and make up little stories about my little pawns. It's contagious and it's fun. Life's fun.
All right, I got one, and I'll talk about a little bit of the good and the bad. I was very critical of the changes to Paladin when they started appearing in like the Unearthed Arcana and stuff like that. Because like Paladin was kind of my baby, and I was like, okay, they're really nerfing the power level of Paladin here. Are we going to get some cool stuff that makes it feel worth it? And I'm going to say one thing that they did that irks me, which is them trying to put this focus on the Paladin mount, which they have never gotten right in any edition ever, and they didn't get it right again here. Mounts still feel worthless. They still don't feel interesting or fun in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah.
And it sucks that one of your major abilities goes towards that. That said, as much as I do miss being able to go Nova and smite 3 times around, being able to both attack and use Lay on Hands feels real good. Lay on Hands feels so much better in 2024 because it doesn't take an action anymore. It's just a bonus action to use. And that feels real nice. Paladin, I actually enjoy 2024 Paladin more than 2014.
You can still go Nova. You just have to do it in a different way, because all the people who cry about Divine Smite being nerfed don't look at all of the other Smite spells that got bumped up.
Oh, yeah.
Searing Smite now both damaged both the initial D6 damage when you hit and the D6 damage that happens at the start of a creature's turn. So you are guaranteed to do 2 instances of damage before they have a chance to save, go up. So a 5th level Searing Smite spell slot is going to do 5d6 fire damage. At the start of that creature's turn, another 5d6 fire damage. And as long as they fail to save, 5d6 fire damage at the start of their turn. That is crazy.
You're still a wildly punishing character, but then you turn around and you act like a friend to your allies, and it doesn't take away from what the true spirit of a paladin is, I feel like.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like, as much as, like, in the old version of it, they needed it to be an action, because if you could do that and smite on a turn, that was really, really powerful. But the way it is now, I'm not going to lie, it actually does feel better.
I'd actually play a paladin now. I feel like there's more interesting choices than, well, sorry guys, I got a smite. It's too good.
Well, I mean, listen, it is still just smite slots. I'm still never casting command, but at least now I do other things and use some different smites. I don't only use divine smite anymore.
The thing that I think, this is hit or miss. I'm not going to say obviously all subclasses were great, because there's a lot of them that didn't change at all. But there are some really, really good subclasses that got a major glow up. Not you, Arcane Archer. Sit back down.
No,
but I want
Arcane Archer.
I want each of us to talk about one of our favorite subclasses. If you have one, if you don't, that's fine. But for me, it's the Archfey. The Archfey, I used, like, thematically was really cool. Just this idea of having like the Archfey patron I had on my bard, but I wasn't planning on taking any levels in it besides like the one for. I don't even know why I took it now. But the new Archfey basically turns you into Nightcrawler, essentially.
Yeah.
You get like a bunch of free Misty Steps, and whenever you Misty Step, you have like a bunch of different extra effects, kind of like the Eladrin, based on what season you are, can like do different things. If you make an Eladrin, Archfey, Warlock, Pact of the Blade, you're just Nightcrawler. You're Nightcrawler. you have like, what is it? Proficiency bonus, steps of the Fae. You have charisma bonus, free Misty Steps, and just all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with them on a bonus action, so you still have your action for stuff. It's so much fun.
Oh, that'd be amazing. It would just be satisfying too. Like, I feel like so many people look at the mechanics of the game and they're not into like the concept of just being able to dash around a battlefield, get a bunch of hits in. It doesn't matter if you're doing the most amount of damage. It's just cool. It's fun. It makes you feel like a superhero.
I had made a monk once with like super, super high speed. And then when we got to playing the game, it was like, I don't ever really need to move around that much. But as the Archfey, because you're doing like all these extra things, like, you bamf away from a bunch of people that you're adjacent to, now they have to make a roll or have disadvantage on attacks that aren't at you. So either they need to track you down and try to hit you, or they have to stay and swing on people with disadvantage. It's so much fun to actually feel like what you're doing has an impact.
Yeah. So as far as subclasses go, I kind of want to give 2 shout-outs here. One is for a subclass, the Path of the World Tree Barbarian.
Oh my God.
So cool.
Is, speaking of teleporting being cool, teleporting Barbarian is pretty sick. It's really cool.
It's not just cool. That subclass is like borderline overpowered when you really like the fact that anything that gets it's something like, and I may be getting these a little bit wrong here, so forgive me. Find comments to correct me in. But it's something like if something's 30 feet away from you or tries to move away from you, you get to use like a reaction to teleport to it or teleport to you or something. You can use an action later on at like level 14 to teleport yourself and 10 creatures 120 feet. If you have a Path the World Tree Barbarian, nothing is getting away. So DMs plan so far in advance for how you want your bad guys to escape. Because short of like teleportation or dimension dooring, they're not going anywhere. And then, poor Arcane Archer over here.
Well, speaking of Arcane Archer, while Arcane Archer may not have gotten rescued or the saving that it so desperately needs, Fighter in general got such a glow up in 2024. Fighter, I think, got the nicest treatment of any of the classes in 2024. And the number of people I see who hate the new Fighter, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh,
It actually, like, you can actually do things. It has abilities that work in both roleplay and in combat now. Second Wind isn't a laughing stock anymore. Like, come on now. The new Fighter kicks ass. And the weapon masteries are amazing.
Yeah, and the whole thing that you could do where you unlock that extra ability, oh my gosh, I love it so much. And also, I'm just going to say this, I've never met a Fighter main in the 2014 edition. Maybe now we'll have some.
Yeah, maybe someone will actually main Fighter. We had someone play our Sky Knight Fighter in 2024, and they said it was freaking amazing. And, shameless plug, but yeah.
Is it a shameless plug when we're on our own show?
On our podcast? I guess we can talk about one of our subclasses.
That it is, yeah. Well, Kali just riddled or named off a bunch of the things that I was going to mention. Yes, Second Wind is amazing. Weapon masteries are so great as well. Diana, do you have a particular subclass that stood out to you?
I mean, I can try. So this is kind of where my weakness as a forever DM comes in that I haven't read the PHP cover to cover. I'll be honest with you, I never did in 2014 either.
Nobody does.
No one does. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
It's something where I hone in on my favorite class and subclass, and that's always been Circle the Moon Druid. And if anything, I just like the fact that you don't have to be Circle the Moon Druid anymore. It's one of those things where it's like, it was the objective good choice. And so I always went with it time after time after time. And now that you can wild shape more powerfully as a bonus action, no matter what you are, is fantastic. They didn't make swim speed a thing that you have to deal with anymore. You can just have a swim speed from the get-go when you started playing as a druid. I don't know. I haven't dove too much into like the spell casting. I know as far as cantrips go, Elementalist isn't my favorite, but also all the others are still there, the old classics. So as long as it hasn't completely turned me off from old reliable, I'm here for it.
What's your usual go-to class? Is it druid?
Definitely druid. You wouldn't be able to tell by the amount of like dead and dying plant. That one's not healthy.
Hey,
I had to move it next
Druid
to
of the Blighted Land is a thing, and IMO, it is
Thanks.
the coolest class, okay?
I guess.
Or the coolest subclass. I mean, you get
It's
so
cool.
great. It's so awesome. I love my Blighted Land Druid. The only thing that I'll say, even though I said we weren't going to do this, that I dislike about the Druid is that they like limit you on like your known forms.
They always kind of did that though, didn't they?
Wait, did they?
Yeah,
I always
in
thought
the
it was just
OG.
you can just turn into whatever you want to turn into. Like obviously, like your form is like you can't turn into like a flying or like a swimming one, but like at level 8, apparently you only know 8 forms to transform
Oh, they didn't do it by
into.
number. No, you're totally
Yeah.
right. It's like you had to have seen it before or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Person.
Which I think that was fine. But look, in my games, you can turn into whatever you want. I can
Yeah,
Google
right?
something and
Like,
make a
you've
token
seen
for you.
fly
It's no
before.
problem.
You want to be a really obscure type of squirrel? Sure. Okay.
I specifically want to be a lemur. It has to be a lemur. I'm sorry, nothing else does it for me.
Now, Kali, you actually pointed this out to me because I had missed this. That what is it? You can't just like cure diseases in like poisons like super easy anymore.
Yes,
diseases are back. Baby.
They are. So lesser restoration, paladins lay on hands. Basically all the curing spells that used to remove mundane diseases no longer. They can now remove magical diseases, but mundane diseases are no longer whisked away with 5 points of lay on hands or a lesser resto. So DMs, yes, your players can show up to a town beset by plague and not just immediately fix it for nothing.
One of my favorite things from 4th edition was the way that their diseases had like sliding scales. So if you made a save, you weren't just automatically cured, you got better, and if you failed, you got worse. So it was like, an ongoing thing. And I never got to use Slimy Doom in 4th edition, which had like 4 or 5 stages, and the last stage was basically that you just like collapse into like a pile of goo.
Yeah.
Like your atoms
bad
just
time.
And I could never do it you even bring it to 5th edition because a paladin would just be like, lay on hands, you're fine.
Lay on hands, you're good.
Yeah.
Done.
Guess what I'm doing now?
No, and so that's the general thing, because not only from a DM's perspective, but also from a player's perspective, where it doesn't make any sense for you to be like, yeah, my mom died of disease, and it's like, how? She couldn't go down to the local church and grab a lesser resto. They don't have a 3rd level cleric hanging around somewhere. What do you?
Right.
The local paladin couldn't be spared to give him a high five and fix him.
A paladin on their day off isn't using their lay on hands for anything anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had to come up when we did Rosalind's story, right? I had to come up with some weird magical blood malady that was like a genetic disorder for her kind, because it's the only way I could explain why she couldn't get it fixed.
Can I share something with you now that it has been revealed and our campaign's coming to an end now?
I'm going to be mad about this, aren't I?
So, do you remember how you had sent a blood sample to Kaelin to check to see if Rosalind had that blood disease?
I did, yes.
And he, basically said, even if it ends up happening because of blood magic, I can just fix it and turn it off, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, if y'all would have went up against him at the moment of seizing the power of the end MacGuffin, he was basically gonna be like, I cannot let you do this. Please don't make me do this to you. And then if Rosalind didn't yield, he was going to basically
turn on her blood disease.
You're basically you're in the last stages of your blood disease now. Yeah, it was gonna be bad. It's going to be real bad.
Yeah, that would have been rough. Oh, yeah, God.
Diseases are back, though. You can't
so
do
excited.
it now.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait to implement COVID 19.24 in my D&D campaigns.
So shifting a little bit away from the diseases, healing got buffed, and I feel like this is a thing that people are split on. Some people hate this. Some people do like it because let's be honest. In 2014, when it came down to it, the only HP that really mattered was the last one. In some cases, it didn't really make sense to heal somebody for 15, 20 HP, even when whatever's hitting
the enemy's
them,
hitting for 25. They're just going to go back down.
Exactly. So now having doubled everything, that means Stars Druids with a level 1 spell slot can heal for upwards of 40 HP now, or something ridiculous like that. How do we feel about it? Yay? Nay?
It's hard to say. I mean, death spirals are so much a thing in TTRPGs, no matter what you do, that it balances out the disheartening nature and reality of combat when you have death at play. But at the same time, I feel like it's one of those things where I don't know. If you're not into it, just don't play with those rules. Hardcore campaigns are 100% a thing, and you can choose to take that route if you want to in nerf healing. Honestly, this is one of those situations where I'd refer to our Lord and Savior RPGbot.net and see what they think. Because I'm, again, not a mechanics girly, but I don't know. When people have such strong opinions about things like that, it's like, okay, well, just don't play that way. It's fine. It's fine. Lower your blood pressure a little bit. You're fine.
Yeah, I think the problem comes back to like Circle of the Stars Druid, which obviously broke healing in 2014 in so many ways, because for everyone else, healing felt completely not worthwhile. Like, a third level spell slot to do what 3d8 plus my wisdom modifier and HP. There's way more valuable in doing an inflict wounds at the same level, because there's no better healing than the enemy being dead.
Actually, though, and a good night's rest afterward.
Yeah, like that's actually the best way to heal up. So like, I get why there are some people who are looking at it like, oh great, healing matters. And the problem so often is that the rest of the math often doesn't bear out players being able to heal themselves up really well. I have a hard enough time getting my players' HP down, let alone when they just go, and I'll healing word to regain half of what you just did. And I'm like, but you're a barbarian, and you take half damage on everything that I do to you already, and you save every time I ask for a saving throw.
Well, now you can just give them stronger enemies and more
and slimy
of
doom.
Them. And slimy doom.
Yeah.
That's right. Although I feel like a barbarian's probably going to make the saves.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's an intelligence save now. This is
Okay,
this is
fair
brain
enough.
this is brain slimy doom.
Slimy Doom is now the way that we're making it in 2024. Slimy Doom actually specifically targets the weakest part of you. So whatever your lowest stat is, you have to roll with that.
Yeah.
That's the new rule. Speaking of stronger monsters, though, I'm going to assume from Diana's not reading the player's handbook. How much have either of you looked into the new monster manual?
I love it.
I read the flavor text and loved it, and then haven't gotten into it too much since. I know there's a lot of new options, and there's a lot more lore than there used to be, or lore potential, I believe.
Well, like you, Diana, I have also not read the Monsters Manual yet. However, Wolf the DM on TikTok I had something come across my timeline where he had mentioned that the Lich only has 3 spell slots above level 3, whereas before they used to have a lot more, and was like, did they nerf the Lich? So I went and took a look at it, and not quite. I think the Lich is terrifying now, because beforehand it would be on their turn you do 1 spell, or you make a paralyzing touch attack, right? And they have a bunch of obviously crazy, scary spells. Now they get once a day Finger of Death, Chain Lightning, Scrying, and Power Word Kill, and then they also get at will 5th level Fireball and 5th level Lightning Bolt, but that's it for like their like 5th level in up spells, I think.
Right.
But they have multi-attack now.
Correct.
Which is Paralyzing Touch, which does not require a save now. If you get hit, you're paralyzed for 1 turn, and then they can hit you with 2 Eldritch Bursts, which at melee are both critical hits.
Correct.
That means that on average, a Lich could be doing, without any spells, like 130 damage.
So here's the thing about the 2024, or I guess 2025
They're going to need that double healing for that.
They're going to need the double healing. So many things they've done make so much sense. Like the fact that they gave like, okay, here's a flat initiative that the enemy has if you're one of those DMs who say rolls terribly all the time. So here's just your flat initiative that you can use for all their big monsters. The fact that they gave each of the ancient dragons a full page art, I'm so grateful for, because they all look beautiful, and I love that. I'm not a fan of all of the styles that they use for them, but overall, I like that they all got a full page of art and lore. I love the change moving away from layer actions, because layer actions, I admit, were cool, but they were always clunky and weird. And that they've moved away and just said, no, if it's in its layer, it gets an extra legendary action every round, and it gets an extra legendary resistance.
I'm still going to use layer actions, because I always feel like the environment should be a character in the combat.
So I agree with you, but I think that the environment should play off the legendary actions. I think the legendary actions should be like flavored as affecting the environment. But
fair enough.
They didn't do that either, to be fair. Like I'm not saying that's what they did, but that's what it should be. Because the layer actions where it's like, all right, this round, all of these squares become dangerous terrain. This round, some stuff falls from the ceiling. Okay, well, how about we just let the creature do that as a legendary action?
See, the problem I think was that too many of the layer actions from layer to layer to layer we're kind of all the same thing. You know, it's the same problem that I have with a lot of like lower level creatures in beasts, where it's like, oh, does it have claws? Oh, it has a claw attack. Oh, it does not really have claws. Oh, I guess it has a bite attack. And then that's kind of it. Like there's a few here and there, like, you know, wolves can knock you down. You know, crocodiles can like, you know, latch onto you and grapple you. Why don't you give them a death roll? A death roll ability for a crocodile after it like grapples you? That'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish
Robbie, that would be work.
They literally get paid to make a game.
I don't know. I've always been a layer effects girl more than a layer actions girl. Like the flavor of it, of just things wither and die when you get within a certain radius. There should be a hint as to
and
the
they do
creature's
still
character.
have that. They did keep that part. So like when you go to like when you have like the ancient blue dragon section, it still says this is what their layer is like and what happens around it. It just doesn't have layer action specifically anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So one of you on our handy dandy note line outline here put death redone. Did they make some changes to death and like death saving throws and stuff that I'm not aware of?
Not to death and death saving throws necessarily as a straight up mechanic. However, they did make some changes when it comes to knocking out or doing like non-lethal damage to a potential enemy to capture them, where nowadays, or there are like alternate choices for death rules. So instead of just dying straight out, if you choose to have a campaign that doesn't include death or that has more chances for the party to essentially avoid death, if you don't want to play hardcore, then you can get knocked out instead. And then you just, if the rest of your party, or at least one part of your party survives through a long rest, then I believe you roll a die, and then that determines whether or not you get up the next day. So there's like more chances. And again, these are optional rules. You don't have to go with anything. Where you could have a potentially less lethal campaign without just saying, oh yeah, no one dies ever. It's, you know, idealistic.
Like that
utopia.
trope, that cliche, like has existed for so long. That's one of the things that I've never understood when like people argue with the idea of like, no, if they lose, they have to die. If it's a dragon and the dragon, the kids are going to eat them all. No, what, you're saying that the dragon wouldn't think to like, okay, maybe 2 of them will fill me up and I'll send the others off to like warn people, don't fuck with me, just leave me alone.
Listen.
Like there's all sorts of reasons that you could be defeated and the enemies don't need to kill you.
It's old school Final Fantasy rules. As long as one person gets away, they carry all the bodies out with them.
Cloud falling from the plate down into the Sector 7, or not Sector 7, 8, 9, whatever, falls down to Ares' church. Bro fell from up in like the clouds through a church roof onto a flower bed, gets up and dusts himself off, okay? If you just because you hit 0 HP doesn't mean you have to die.
Yeah, I feel like it just gives more possibilities. And same on the other end of it, too. Even if you do die, the new PHB gives you a ton of options, or the new DMG gives you so many options as to what you can do after a TPK. It's not just the end of the campaign. You could maybe have it so that 15, 20, 50 years from now, another party comes and resurrects your old heroes and asks them to fulfill a new quest or finish their old quest. You could have it so you're fighting your way out of the hells. It has you like, it gives you many more options that I think seed potential areas of inspiration for new DMs, especially.
That gimmick is so good, especially if it's a low-level party. I love the idea that these heroes 100 years later show up and resurrect like a level 3 group. You're like, you guys are the heroes of legend. And they're like, are we? Okay.
I want now to wipe a party with a dragon and then have like their kobold priest resurrect the party and be like, y'all gotta try again. Y'all get out of here right now. You need to get stronger. You need to come back. You need to get us out from underneath the tyranny of this dragon. Please come back and save us.
Dude, there's a thing that mildly off topic, and this is not 2024 rules necessarily, but at Gen Con, some people will run roguelike D&D tables where you die, you come back, you level up every single death, and it's so much fun. It's like a little condensed 1 to 2 hour session. I've signed up for them so many times, and every single time I can't make it because of content creator stuff.
Oh, that sounds so much fun,
such a
though.
cool concept.
I'd be trying to die so often. like if that's when you level up, yes.
I'm currently playing like through Hades 2 in early access, so I'm all about it right now.
Yeah.
So the last thing that we have on our list here is the Bastion system. Now, thematically, this is something that I have always been a huge fan of, and it's actually funny as we're recording this. Suikoden 1 and 2, the HD remasters, just came out, which is a super old school JRPG that had 108 characters in it. And as you like recruited these characters, they would come to like your base of operation and would bring something to us. So you'd have to like recruit like an item shop owner, a blacksmith. And so you would actually watch your town grow as you recruited people. And I've always wanted to do that in a campaign that eventually leads like a big war. And based on who you've recruited is what your like army looks like. And I know that that's not exactly what the Bastion system is, but having something put into the game now that kind of incentivizes this.
What you're describing, by the way, is Kingmaker and Pathfinder, just so you know. That's exactly what Kingmaker is.
But you know what? As a D&D player, there may be a game out there that does what I want to do better, but I'm going to make my game do it, okay?
I'm just saying, like...
You can't make me play something that I don't want to play.
I 100% cannot.
You don't pay my D&D Beyond sub, all right?
Oh, my God.
But Diana, you did a video about the Bastion system, didn't you?
I did. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. I can't speak to how well it actually carries out, but when it comes to like reaching a certain level and just having a place of your own, a little place to call home, your players are going to want that eventually. If you don't give them real estate, they will full on like make their own real estate system and property taxes in your world just so they can do it.
What are you laughing about, Kali?
Call their own.
The other day I gave my party a house. They have their own like manor now that they live in, and I literally just like, yes, the truest fantasy of all. Home ownership.
Okay, I thought you were laughing about the fact that I gave y'all in our campaign a unused, like vacant, super awesome manor in like session 13 or 14, and they didn't get back to it until session like 90 something.
It was later than that. He gives us a manor. And then immediately after is like, you guys got to get out of this country. You got to go. The king wants you for questioning. You all got to go.
You could have went and talked to him.
That's what I'm talking about, though, is like the chance to have a little place to call your own. Especially because once you give your party some real estate, they're immediately going to be like, okay, who wants to take the bedroom on the top floor? And then I'll take the basement. You know, I feel like my character would really like a little garden. It's like, you guys are just playing The Sims in D&D, and they're like, yes, this is what we wanted since 2014.
One of the most excited moments that my players had, I think, after I gave them this place was like going, can there be like a little like tower on the end of it with like a wizard's shop at the top, or like a library that I have, or can I make it like an observatory up there? And I'm just sitting here like, you guys can do it. It's your house. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. Like, is there some sort of mechanical benefit you want to having that? Like, no. I just want to hang out and have it look cool. And I'm
Kali,
like, all right,
in the back of her mind, Kali's like, yes, you can make this, like, this should be your paradise. Add everything you have ever wanted to it. And then that voice in the back of her head, so I can take it away.
So I can burn it to the ground.
Please have 3 more rooms full of liabilities. I'm begging you.
I think the only thing, because I haven't like had a chance to use the Bastion system yet, but I think the only thing from what I heard that makes me a bit wary of it, depending on the type of story you're telling, is that they're like, give each character their own bastion. They can raise their own allies and their own armies. And I'm like, it's tough enough dealing with one of them, and you want each of them to have their own little like, I don't know. So, they'll probably share one.
There is a part of the bastion system where it kind of suggests like, you know, because a bastion can just be a part of a larger structure. So like their bastion can be all together, but it does, give a system for like everyone can have their own bastion, but someone's bastion might just be like a blacksmith's forge. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look, we've got our Sims, right? Our Stardew Valley. Well, kind of our Stardew Valley. The next thing that we need, if you're listening, Wizards of the Coast, is we need official rules on how to date NPCs. All right, give us our dating sim, so we can really tick off all of the grognards and the neckbeards.
I don't want Wizards' opinion on how to properly court and date somebody. I don't know. Like, listen, it's one thing when they botch up a balancing issue. You don't want tables to help you create your NPCs so they're not all just tieflings?
I don't
listen, no, I just like, because it's going to be like, they're going to be like, if you roll a nat 20, she'll sleep with you. And I'm like, I don't need that. No.
Wait, hold on. Does Ed Greenwood still work there?
I don't
Is that the guy who said?
I mean, he owns Forgotten Realms. So
yeah,
like,
he's the drow breast milk tastes like guy.
Oh yeah. He's the guy who canonically told us what both drow and tiefling breast milk tastes like.
I forgot about that.
Oh, I was gonna say, is this news to you, Diana?
No, I'd heard it in passing and chose to block it out of my memory.
Good,
Ed Greenwood is a
choice.
kinky motherfucker, and he wrote Forgotten Realms, and he'll let you know about it.
So he has like a sheaf of paper. There's some intern out there with a filing cabinet that's just got like all the potential mechanics for favor systems in D&D that leads straight into all this romance stuff.
Look up what a level 20 drow matron mother wears and wields, and you'll be like, they're literally clad in like latex black with a with literally a tentacle whip that is their actual canon weapon. I'm like, Ed, come on.
That's more than we need to know about you, Ed.
Nope.
Oh, well, you follow his Twitter. You'll learn a lot about him. I promise.
No thanks. God. No thanks. Well, I promised that we would do, I don't think I did it on the show, but at some point, somewhere, I promised that we would do 10 things we love about D&D 2024, and that was 11. Was there anything within D&D 2024 that stands out that we missed, that you wanted to make sure that we get in here in some form or fashion?
Oh, man. I just want to shout out how amazing the DMG is. I said at the outset of this episode that I don't really read anything cover to cover. The DMG is one of the very few TTRPG books, especially by wizards, that I would recommend someone actually read. It'll make you a better DM. It has so many nice little handouts, and even if you're just trying to dip your toe in the water and run a one-shot for your pals during a winter break or something, it will help you out so much more than the old edition did. Like, it is so much less daunting. It's not perfect. Still a little hard to be a DM, but like if you've been a player once and you read like the inspo parts of each chapter, you'll be totally fine. It's
also the first DMG, I think, to have like a setting in the DMG. They included Greyhawk?
Like Greyhawk.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Gary Gygax's setting, yeah. I mean, we're talking old school.
Yeah,
and in fairness, that's the problem. Like, if you like Greyhawk, if you're someone out there who likes Greyhawk, you love Greyhawk, and then everyone else is just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think that the last thing that I want to address, the last sort of criticism, is this idea that like if you've already been playing 2024, it feels like a lot of stuff was repackaged, right? Like a lot of the wizard subclasses, for example, didn't really go through a lot of changes at all, right? So if you already had the 2014 stuff, I agree that you probably don't need to buy all of the new things, especially because you can find a lot of that stuff out there at different places for free. But if you're just getting into it, getting the new 2024 stuff does come with so much extra stuff compared to the older things, right? And then, you know, obviously as far as getting all the other subclasses here and there, like I said, it's in Creative Commons, right? So go out there and find it.
And it's also worth noting, like obviously 2024 Wizard, that it only has like 4 of the 8 subclasses available to it. Like everyone got 4 subclasses, but when the Wizard is built around having 8 schools of magic, it feels weird when you can only pick 4 of them. But also, Wizard was one of the classes from 2014 that I felt like didn't need a lot of changing. Mm-hmm. Like, Wizard was already in a pretty good spot. There were other classes that more sorely needed attention. Paladin needed a nerf. Fighter needed to be not fighter. It needed to be fixed a little bit. Why they felt the need to continue just making Ranger's life miserable, I don't know. My ongoing theory is that Jeremy Crawford dated a Ranger main at one point, and she dissed him real bad.
Yeah,
and
the one Ranger
fuck
out there.
Ranger.
Yep.
Yeah, the one. Well, and then Sarah's the other one. Yeah. They did a lot of good things with a lot of the classes, and ultimately, I don't come away from 2024 having tons of complaints about it. I have some, and they're strong, but I don't come away from 2024 going like, what a waste. My biggest problem, as I said at the top of the show, is that they really wanted to stick to this idea of it being backwards compatible with 2014, which I understand why they wanted it to be that. But having now tried that, it feels real clunky. It does not feel good.
Well, some people would say that D&D has always felt pretty clunky.
Well, you're not wrong.
Crunch.
All right. Well, now, Diana, this is the first time you get to participate in this, and I am eager to be out outvoted 2-1 in most cases, probably. But this is our Am I the Asshole in Character edition of the show. So we have 2 stories here we're going to read through. For anyone listening, if you head to our Discord, to our Patreon, you can find the link to submit your own Am I the Asshole stories to be read in future episodes. So our first one is, I betrayed my party with my best friend by just trying to get ahead in life. My adventuring party and I were allied with a were-rat named Sylvia from Skullport. While resting one night, my fighter friend, Sigrel, stayed up to keep watch. Sylvia found out we killed one of her friends before meeting her, so she attacked Sigrel. Sigrel decapitated her in self-defense, and my sleeping body somehow ended up curled up with Sylvia's head. So when I awoke, I saw the head and had a burst of joy, for I now have a new best friend, Stephanie the Head. I'm going to assume he's maybe a barbarian. Yeah. Now, my adventuring party seemed to be confused and weirded out by my new best friend, Stephanie, particularly Sigrel and our cleric, Hullet. I don't see the problem with helping her clean her hair while in a dungeon, yet the party looked at us in horror and disgust. A drow princess promised us cool titles and some items if we slayed some goblins and hags for her. But the party decided they wanted to betray the drow princess and her men. So I decided Stephanie and I deserved better than these pathetic whelps of a party. So I sold them out and told the drow princess the party will betray her, and provided evidence using a sonolily? I don't know what that is. Okay, that thing.
Underdark.
Now I'm trying to work my way up the ranks of the Drow Society. The princess is trying to quietly take over Waterdeep, and I want that city for myself. I did try convincing the party to join me, but Hullet refuses to profit off of crimes. But in my eyes, someone is profiting regardless, so why not us? Am I the asshole just trying to get ahead in life?
Okay, well, there's a lot going on
There's
in
a
that
lot to
story.
unpack.
There's a lot to unpack there. All right, so first of all, I'm going to give my answer presuming you are a woman. Because if you are a man, you're an idiot. You're not going anywhere in Drow Society. You are not climbing the ranks to anywhere. The best you can hope for is licking the feet of someone important.
Which you might be into that.
It doesn't seem like trying to get ahead in life has a very high intelligence score. So
I would
either
agree.
way, they're probably going to be fine.
I mean, that's reasonable. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say you're the asshole on this one for just so many reasons that I'm having a real hard time with you befriending a head. Because I'm assuming, like, the head is rotting, I can only presume.
That's what you took out of all of this, is because they're carrying around a rotting head, they must be the asshole? First of all, I feel like the whole party is probably assholes. So unfortunately, that means that you are as well. Now, are you an asshole for this particular thing? I don't know. I'm kind of leaning on the side of like I get it, right? Because first of all, that this Hullet person refuses to profit off crimes, right? You were going to be rewarded for dealing with a hag and some goblins, right? Which probably weren't great, and decided to instead betray royalty, drow or otherwise. That's kind of a shitty thing to do, but now you're being all high and like mighty. I don't know. I can't say that you're not the asshole, but I am on your side trying to get ahead.
Yeah, I feel like this
trying to get ahead. The head. I got it.
I also just got that.
I put this on the timeline and I only just got that.
I feel like, yeah, this is kind of one of those everyone sucks here type situations, especially because you killed Sylvia's, sounds like, best friends prior to meeting with her. So the betrayal is okay when it's in that circumstance, but it's not okay when it has to do with the drow and political society. Like, what's with the double standard there?
Yeah, not to mention, like it said before meeting her, right? Could Sigrel not have, like, I don't know, woke you guys up? You could have, like, restrained her and kind of explained the situation. Instead, you just go straight to killing somebody that you were allied with?
There's a lot going on. I will say, to the point of everyone kind of sounds like the asshole in this one, I mean, this definitely sounds like an Underdark campaign, and that would be, like, accurate. Like, that would be appropriate. Everyone is the asshole. Everyone sucks.
All right. So I think our general consensus here is that everyone's the asshole.
Yeah. I mean, that's out of the abyss in general. So, yeah.
Our second one, Why Do Angels Hate So Much by Damien Edgecrest.
Damien, I'm familiar with your
work. Our group was traveling through Wisconsin. Okay, so this takes place in real life or on Earth.
Well, if this is dogma rules, they were actually traveling through hell, or the only place worse than hell.
All right, well, fair enough. So our group was traveling through Wisconsin, and we met the Hodag, which I believe is a Wisconsin cryptid.
I think so, yeah.
He looks like a fearsome critter resembling a large bull-horned carnivore with a row of thick, curved spines down the back. Turns out he's super friendly. We travel to his house, and the whole time he's helping out the local community. He feeds us, offers us drinks, help us fix up our damaged truck. Now, our group has been traveling with the world's first and only angel this whole time, who has threatened to kill me multiple times. She has a bit of a bone to pick with demon spawn like me. So I ask her, hey, this is the friendliest, nicest guy I've ever met. What happened to you to make you so mean, and how can we prevent it from happening to him? And she responds with, fuck you, Damien. It was a legitimate question. Why is the supposed paragon of good not as nice and giving as this random cryptid in Wisconsin? We got to make sure the Hodag doesn't become as jaded as this bitter angel. Anyway, am I the asshole? Damien Edgecrest. This sounds like a Supernatural episode.
All right.
So really, you guys answer this first because I'm very familiar with these characters, so I think I know what's going on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here in this. Now, I'm also gonna, I'm gonna say you're the asshole just from the perspective of if you start a conversation with me with what happened to you to make you so mean, I'm gonna also say fuck you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, I guess it depends on what character. If it's Callista, I guess I get it, but yeah, no, I don't think you're like an asshole for like befriending the cryptid, right? Like that's fine. But I don't know that the way to approach it is to go to the angel and be like, hey, you're a bitch. What happened to you?
All right, I'm curious now. You said you're familiar with these characters?
Oh, yeah. If you guys don't know what this is referring to, highly recommend checking out the Storyteller Squad, partially because they're amazing people. It's a wonderful AP of Monster of the Week that does, in fact, take place in the
I love
North
Monster
American
of the
folklore.
Week.
Yeah.
Okay.
However,
That
I'm
explains
also
so
plugging
much
it because
about-
I am in part of an episode,
Yeah.
so,
That explains so much about it being Wisconsin and the Hodag. Okay, it's Monster of the Week. Now I get it.
So wait, so you're saying that there's some AP out there that listens to our podcast?
Oh, yeah, they're probably huge
Apparently.
fans.
Oh, y'all should email us. Maybe we get one of you on the show.
You should. They're amazing. I love them.
Yeah.
I can get you guys connected.
All right. Well, as someone who has a bit more context, then is Damien an asshole?
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Like with a name like
So here's the
Edgecrest,
thing.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, right? Like, all right, Edgelord Crest, give it a rest.
What is it
that
with guy's
particular
name
angel.
Damien. I had a character in our game named Damien Frostfire, and he was also an
Damien.
asshole.
He sucked.
Comes with the territory. I mean, it sounds in essence like you're not 100% wrong. It sounds like the Hodag is just taking care of their own, protecting who happens to be passing through their territory in a very welcoming to new guests type area, especially when it comes to Wisconsin. What else are you going to do? And that angel in particular, though, I will say, has been through a lot. It's one of those things where you kind of want to be careful who you're talking to when you're like, hey, why are you such an asshole? There's pages of lore there, friend. Just be a little bit careful.
Yeah, well, again, you don't know what they've been through, right? And same with the Hodag. Like, obviously, the Hodag probably gets a bad rap a lot of the time, being a cryptid, But and the angel isn't being like, we got to kill this thing. I assume, at least not according to the story. But when you go to the angel and go like, yo, you're entirely unpleasant to be around all the time. What happened to you to make you that way? Yeah, I think the angel is very justified. Also, is the angel hot, out of curiosity? I just need to know from me. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, now I feel really good about my decision.
It's one of those things where it's like you have all these expectations, right? You're labeled with angel, you're labeled with local cryptid. It's gonna result in someone pushing back against those labels and just being a really kind of mean, every once in a while type angel, a little sassy angel versus the nicest Hodag you've ever met.
And the only.
All right. Well, I think the last thing that I'll say about it is regardless of what you have been through, you still get to decide how you act. So being through some stuff doesn't mean that you get to be an asshole to people. Now, if Mr. Damien has done some things that warrant being an asshole to him, cool. But just being a demon spawn doesn't warrant being mean. So I don't know. Maybe by the end they'll find some common ground, and who knows what might happen. But
the romance arc begins.
The
Enemies
romance
and lovers
begins. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode. Diana, once again, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you? If you have anything that you'd like to shout out, anything you're going to be in, or any projects that you're doing. I know I followed a few new accounts here and there that have you on them. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, you caught me right where con season and the reality of the year is starting to pick up after the lull of winter time. But yes, hi. If you don't know me, I'm Diana Faye, also known as Diana of the Rose. I'm a tabletop gaming content creator when it comes to short form and long form. So that means shorts, reels, TikToks, Instagram in general, where I'm also a model, YouTube, where I do long form content. I'm also a Twitch partner and a member of the Latin Guild and Pride Guild. Let's see. The biggest thing that I have coming up right now is Worlds Apart, which is a brand new podcast that I put out recently with a friend of mine, Odin, also known as Odin_Sun, both with two N's, where basically we just sit around and we do world building, but like in the riffy sort of like two best friends chilling in a basement trying to figure out what world they're going to play D&D or Monster of the Week or, any sort of PBTA game, anything ever. We are just building a world, system agnostic, and then we're going to bring in some of our content creator friends and play out some one-shots, some mini-series, things like that. So it's very much like a very encapsulated watch us build a world and then see where the results of that go type thing. So that's Worlds Apart. You can follow us at Worlds Apart TTRPG on all platforms. And then for the real life stuff, I'm going to be on, oh my gosh, I was going to say I'm going to be at pretty much every convention to do with tabletops, which is not true. There's a lot of them, but the biggest ones.
That would be a commitment.
It'd be a commitment. You'd be shocked at how close I am to making it though. I think I was at maybe 5 cons last year. This year is so much more. I'm going to be at all the PAXs, Gen Con, Too Many Games Con over in Philadelphia, including PAX Australia. Actually, I'm going international for the first time. And then, let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Potentially some Comic Cons, some Ren Fairs, things like that. So hopefully you guys can give me a follow to see where I'll be on any given week, because I'm gone pretty much every weekend. So,
if you do ever try to hit up every tabletop RPG con in a year, don't forget Con on the Cobb in Ohio, which
what is this?
We're going to be at this year. So if you want to come and hang out at some point,
is this just a corn convention?
Con on the Cobb.
Yeah,
I'm still not convinced it's an actual convention and it's not just a county fair masquerading as a convention. But I
cannot tell from their site.
We got invited to be at it. I'm so excited to be at it.
That's so cool.
Yep. So that's someplace we'll be at some point. As for us, though, if this isn't your first time
we'll
listening,
also be at Dragon Con this year.
That's the plan.
Nice.
If this isn't your first time listening, you know what we're all about. And if it is your first time here, besides podcasts, we do a ton of homebrew over at our Patreon, which currently includes over 850 magic items and 13 subclasses, the most recent of which is our College of the Culinarian Bard, which allows you to basically create little snacklings, like little creatures made out of food that then go around and can give inspiration and other bonuses and effects to your party. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. And please leave a rating or review on this podcast or episode, depending on whatever platform you're listening on. That's going to be it for us today, everybody. Keep listening or keep watching. And until next time.
The Cloaks and Capes podcast is created by the support of its listeners and generous Patreon donors. Special thanks to our mythmakers and legends, Heartslot, Dolvik, Celtic Crow, Darkflux, Gamergal, Strix River, Tater Thoughts, and Capelli. Views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts. Editing and production by Aaron Pillen and music provided by Aidan Hageland. If you want to support the Cloaks and Capes podcast, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Cloaks and Capes. And check us out on Threads and Instagram at Cloaks and Capes TTRPG.
So what you're saying is that you could steal each of us like an Urukai sword or something.
I mean,